You know, there's a lot of things I remember. I can't say it was not said. Let's just put it that way. I can't. I believe it probably was, but I can't tell you specifically. I don't think there's.
I'll say as an officer of the court, I can.
I think there's a reasonable basis to suggest they did, and they can rely on their own notes and recollection. We good?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's quickly deal with the challenge to one of the jurors. It's, let's see, you're challenging juror 6, is that right? Eileen
I have affidavits.
Castaneda.
I showed the state all of them except for one that was written.
Is the state objecting? Okay, all right. You can file your affidavits and then quickly make your argument, because this is actually based on personal observation of the court.
May I approach the affidavit, Judge?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I couldn't make the state a copy of these because I'd be notarized today in court and signed. Just find my notes. All right, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Basically, we have, I believe I gave you 5 affidavits from my legal assistant, Ms. Mayorga, Mr. Claypool's brother, Ms. Dippolito, her mother, myself, and we couldn't get one in time from Tim Williams, but he did bring it to our attention that he saw this as well, that juror number 3A at specific times in the trial was sleeping. I understand Your Honor did not see it, but I never sat up there with the robe on, but I'm sure you're busy doing a number of things as we are at counsel table. But there are countless people who observe this. It did happen during critical times during the trial. I observed it during Muhammad Shiade's direct when I was looking over at the jurors from this vantage point. It was also observed by members while Mr. Shihade was testifying. That's a critical point according to the case law, which is what testimony she may have missed. During Tim Williams' testimony, he actually observed her sleeping, as did several people explained in the affidavits. And this is all critical testimony for our defense. Now, the purpose of impaneling alternates is for many reasons. The absence of jurors, but also in situations like this where there are sleeping jurors. This court does have discretion, obviously, to dismiss jurors strike a juror and impanel one of the alternates. Your Honor is well aware that there's a duty to ensure that Ms. Dippolito receives a fair and impartial trial, and that includes by a fair and impartial jury that has been listening to the evidence. On one occasion, and Ms. Mayorga saw this, and I'm not sure which affidavit it was also in, Ms. Mayorga noticed the 2 alternates waking her up, and that was after I approached and it became a big deal about it. And that's concerning, so we would ask that Your Honor exercise his discretion and replace that juror with one of the alternates. Now, in the alternative, if Your Honor isn't sure or has some concern, we'd ask that after closing arguments, you individually question, and I think this would avoid any disruption with the jurors, the two alternates as to whether or not they did in fact have to wake her up. And if, I'm saying if you don't think our affidavits are sufficient, and, they could affirmatively establish that yes, she was sleeping, and I think in that case, and that's what was happening, Your Honor would have to impanel one of them and strike juror number 3A. Now, there's no prejudice to either side. Both parties agree to those alternates. And I think if there is a chance of prejudice, obviously, even a slight chance, Ms. Dippolito's constitutional rights must trump any concern the state has. I mean, the state's not prejudiced by any of this, by any of these actions.
All right, let me hear from the state. I know your position. I don't want to make this a long, drawn-out proceeding.
Just real quick, obviously I've been watching NBC, you watch me, I've been watching the jurors. If she's not the most attentive juror on the jury panel, she is the second most attentive juror on the jury panel. She has never been sleeping.
When Mr. Williams approached, and you're right, you did correct me yesterday, and the quote you provided did refresh my recollection. That was closer to, I believe, to what was said, that the jurors seemed to be getting tired during his opening. And Your Honor, Mr. Williams rephrased it in a way that I think...
He wasn't pointing out any particular person. He just...
Actually, Judge, it was the third juror from you.
Well, the one I saw was the one in the back.
Okay, look.
And there's no harm in just asking the two alternates. It can't hurt anybody.
I have personally observed her. What she has done on several occasions, she'll do this, she'll close her eye, but at the time she's still moving her hand, she's awake, she immediately opens her eyes. I have personally observed this particular juror. She has not been sleeping. I know you've got these affidavits. This is based on my observations of her. She has been attentive. She's leaned in listening to testimony at times. She has not been sleeping. She has closed, she's done this a couple of times. She'll close her eye and go like this, and she's going like this with her thumbs. She's not asleep. She might close her eyes occasionally, but she's not sleeping when she does. A lot of people will do this and will concentrate. She's looked forward and concentrated when witnesses are testifying. Sometimes she's a hard time perhaps making sure she's hearing everything. She'll be leaning forward. She's been attentive. There is no basis to remove juror number 6, Miss I guess it's Castaneda, Eileen Castaneda, who is who you're challenging. And so I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to interview jurors at this time.
Your Honor, assuming, all right, you made your ruling as regard to just striking her, but I can't think of a rational reason or any reason why asking two alternates after the conclusion of closing individually, whether or not they had to wake her up. It wouldn't prejudice anybody.
The rational reason is I've made personal observations. I'm not going to start interviewing jurors about other jurors, okay?
They're not jurors.
Right now, they're jurors. If something happens to any of these people, they're in, okay? So they're still jurors at this moment until I discharge them. I'm not going to spend any more time on this. You've made your record. I've made my personal observations for the record. She occasionally has closed her eyes. She's always been paying attention. She's not been asleep. And I'm denying your motion to discharge her at this time. I am going to do one thing when they come out, just in an abundance of caution. I am going to instruct this jury to disregard Ms. Laurie's comment that Ms. Dippolito was a liar. You can say that she lied, but I'm concerned about the liar, just in an abundance of caution. So I'm going to tell them to disregard that statement. Again, it's an isolated statement. Even if it was improper, it does not rise to the level of a mistrial, and I'm fairly comfortable with that.
We would obviously respond that we don't think a curative is sufficient to preserve Ms. Dippolito's rights in a mistrial as the appropriate remedy.
It doesn't matter. I've told you, if you look at the case law on this, an isolated comment is insufficient to cause reversible error. If I instruct them, I'm going to instruct them, but even without the instruction, it's not enough to cause a mistrial. And it's not even enough to support reversal of a conviction based on reversible error. It's an isolated comment. A pattern, yes. Isolated comment, it's just not sufficient.
I respect your ruling.
Okay.
I'm telling you my position on it.
Okay. Your position is curative doesn't do
I
it.
have to preserve a record. I have to
Your
say.
position is I don't want a curative, I want a mistrial.
Yes.
Okay, that's denied. Okay, Mr. Claypool, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring out the jury. Yes, go ahead and file those. I assume you want these filed, Mr. Rosenfeld?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, go ahead and file all those.
I don't have a copy for the state, but I showed them.
Jurors entering.
Yeah, let me give one instruction first. I'll give that curative, and then we'll approach. All right, counsel may be seated. Before we get started, I just want to give you one instruction. With regard to Ms. Lori's comment directed to Ms. Dippolito that she was a liar, you should disregard that specific comment. Do you guys want to approach?
Okay to start.
You may start.
Oh, okay, I was waiting. This case is about an investigation by the Wayne Beach Police Department. It had nothing to do with justice. Nothing. It had everything to do with manipulation and deceit. That's what this case is about. The state told you in their closing argument that Ms. Dippolito was the manipulator. You know what the evidence showed in this case? That the Boynton Beach Police Department, a law enforcement agency that we expect to hold in the highest of public trust, that we expect to go out and serve the community with integrity. This police department placed its own self-interest, its desire to have fame, its desire to promote the police department, its desire to script a good television show. All of that trumped justice on this case. The evidence in this case overwhelmingly shows you, if you look at one piece of evidence in this case, I'm going to point it out to you right now. One piece of evidence. As complicated as this case might seem, tons of testimony, and I get it. You guys have a hard job, because I can't. I was trying to prepare. I couldn't even get my notes straight of all the testimony. But you know what? I took a deep breath, and I thought, how am I going to best show all of you how easy this case is to solve, and how easy it is for you to find not guilty. And it's one critical piece of evidence. And if you're already thinking, if you have some kind of disposition in this case that you don't like that young woman over there, that you don't like Dalia Dippolito, that you heard some comments on a videotape, or you heard some audio tape that you didn't like coming out of that young woman's mouth, or that you think that she's not a good person, or you think maybe she's a gold digger, I got news for you. His Honor has read an instruction to you. And we all pick you, including the state, because we trust you to follow the rules law to follow. His Honor gave you instructions to follow. And what you have to do before you even look at this document I'm going to show you is you have to make me a promise, and you have to make yourself a promise that you will not judge this case because you don't like her, because you think she made some foul comments, because she uses curse words on that video. You can't judge this case because you don't like Dalia Dippolito. That's not the measuring stick in a court of law. You must follow the law because the state has desperately, in this case, tried to bombard you with a lot of distractions. Typical strategy by a government agency that doesn't have credible evidence to convict this young woman. You know what I mean by that? They spent a lot of time in this case. Let's talk a little bit before we go into the evidence about what the case is not about. This is what the case is not about. It's not about all these text messages between Mike Stanley and Dalia Dippolito. That's not what the case is about. And by the way, those text messages, there's not one mention in any of those messages about Dalia Dippolito wanting to kill her husband. Zero. What they're trying to do is show you, hey, this woman doesn't like her husband. She hates her husband. Did you hear it? Did you hear those messages? What she was telling him to do? Freeze his assets. Call the government. What does that tell you? She doesn't get anything. She doesn't get any money out of freezing the assets. The IRS gets the money. That's who gets it. And then they take that money and they pay back the victims that Mike Dippolito swindled. Remember Mike? Miss Laurie talked to you about Mike Dippolito. Remember? Came in here. I'm not going to go into all the detail about what he did wrong. We all know that he committed organized fraud. And they want you to believe, as a distraction in this case, they want you to take your eye off the ball. This is the ball right here. I'm pointing you. The 2007 Boynton Beach PD director. That's where you got to keep your eye on the ball. It's easy to get distracted in these cases. All this stuff about Mike Stanley, Dalia Dippolito, that doesn't prove one piece of evidence that Dalia Dippolito solicited Willie Jean. And remember, we're talking about Willie Jean. That's another key point in this case. Okay? The instruction that His Honor gave. In fact, it says, during the solicitation, Dalia Dippolito commanded, encouraged, hired, or requested Willie Jean. That's an important distinction, remember? Not Muhammad. Not Muhammad Shahadi. It's Willie Jean. Okay? We're focusing on Willie Jean. But let's get back to the distractions again. We have this Mike Stanley, text messages. That is all a trick of the trade to get all of you to hate her so that when you go back there, the first thing you say to each other is, I can't stand that lady. She's disgusting. She's despicable. It helps you feel better. When I first got on the case, I listened to all that. I didn't like what I heard. I'm not here to tell you that I enjoyed hearing what I heard on the audio tapes and video.
Comments.
But what I will tell you is that that's not why we're here. And we're also not here for a couple other reasons. Remember we heard about this Larry? Remember we heard about Larry? We never heard from Larry, did we? Larry was not
Overruled.
Larry was not called as a witness by the state. You didn't hear any evidence in this case about any law enforcement agency on the entire planet, in this entire world, that did any investigation at all of this guy named Larry. Remember that? And in fact, we also had Mr. Shahade testify that he never even heard Dalia Dippolito speaking to a Larry. He never heard Dalia speak to Larry. He just had a guy named Larry come up to him and say something to him. And he also told him, did you hear what he told you? That the street talk oftentimes is a lie. They want you to believe it. They want you to get engaged in all the confusion and distraction. Larry has nothing to do with this case. And you know what's interesting about Larry? I'm going to give Larry one more comment, this fictional Larry guy. He is a guy that, remember, on July 31st, 2009, the Boynton Beach Police Department knew about this. Remember, Muhammad, July 31st, the statement that Mr. Williams went through? The Boynton Beach Police Department knew about this Larry character, right? Number one, they did nothing to go out and investigate. They didn't even try to follow up with this. Number two, the reason why, there's one reason why they didn't do it. Two reasons, actually. Two reasons. They never believed at all that Dalia Dippolito was trying to hire Larry. Do you think if the police department thought that this woman was going to hire Larry to kill somebody, that they wouldn't go out there and try to investigate Larry? That proves she didn't intend to kill her husband. Number two, another reason why they didn't, and this is a powerful fact in this case. Remember the Cops TV show? Miss Laurie wanted to tell you, forget about cops. This had nothing to do with cops. Really? Well, let me give you a reason to think about back there why they never even looked into Larry. Because they couldn't control Larry. Remember, they were trying to script. They knew cops was coming. Cops is going to be there. They need a good script. And they already got it. They got Muhammad in there. He's talking about Dalia Dippolito. They want him to go out and get her on tape. Well, they're not going to be able to control this street guy, Larry. That's not going to fit into their script. That's why they never looked at that too. Because that doesn't fit what they wanted to do. They saw this from day one as an opportunity. An opportunity to make good television. Let's talk about one other distraction before we get into the core of the evidence here. And this, again, this is not what the case is about. And that is, you heard a comment yesterday. You heard a comment, and it was used to impeach Muhammad Shahadi about this allegation of Dalia Dippolito trying to poison her husband. Remember that comment? Well, I've got to address that comment because it was brought up. The reason why that has nothing to do with this case is these folks actually called Mike Dippolito as a witness. Do you remember that? Did you hear them ask Mike Dippolito about that?
Objection.
You didn't hear anything.
Sustained. Mr. Claypool, approach. Jury is instructed to disregard Mr. Claypool's last comment concerning asking questions of Michael Dippolito.
Fact of the matter is, there was never any police report filed. There's no evidence in this case, any police report filed about an alleged incident involving poison. Nothing. And you've heard no evidence in this case at all about any type of investigation from any law enforcement about poison. That is another smokescreen by the state. Remember, keep your eye on the ball. Now let's get back to what the real evidence in this case shows. We are at one of the exhibits that you'll have back there. I believe it's Exhibit 7. Back there. This is a very important document in the case. And this gives you the roadmap to find an acquittal in this case. It says an informant will be deactivated when he or she is no longer willing to cooperate with the department. Remember, this is a directive. And remember, we heard testimony in the case about what a directive is. A directive is a rule or a policy that the police department has to follow. And in the confidential informants packet, you also had, remember Muhammad Shahadi, we had his testimony. It says in there, I agree to cooperate with the Boynton Beach Police Department of my own free will and not as a result of any intimidation or threats. This, the top of Exhibit 7, when you combine that with the unequivocal testimony of Muhammad Shahadi, I lost track of how many times yesterday he told you he did not want to be involved in this investigation. From the moment he called the police department, plain and simple. We have directives in place like this. Tim Williams talked about it, remember? We also had 2 witnesses in this case that had told you all that if a police department pressures an informant or threatens them in any way to stay on an undercover investigation, not only should the informant be removed from the investigation, but it is illegal to do that, to threaten. And remember what was said by Mr. Williams. All the evidence generated after that is what? It's tainted. 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 Contaminated. It's not credible. Not credible evidence at all. This is what the state wants you to ignore. That fact alone kills their case. The reason why it does is because they don't defend the case. If you follow the law in this case, and you follow, I'm not even talking about the law right now. You follow the police department involved in this case. This is their directive. Forget about the law for a moment. It says, and we've highlighted the word. You see that? Will. An informant will be deactivated when he is no longer willing to cooperate. Will. No question about it. There's no if, well maybe, let me think about it, let's have a meeting, should we take him off? It's mandatory. Why is it mandatory? To preserve the integrity of the investigation. Y'all remember that? We've talked about that a lot in this case. The state does not want you to pay attention to this. The state does not want you to focus on should a police investigation have integrity. That's not what they want you to do. They want you to focus on contaminated, tainted evidence. Because if the Boynton Beach Police Department followed proper procedure and followed the law, they would have immediately removed Muhammad Shahadi from this investigation. They didn't do that. And let's talk about, before I move on, let's talk about whether you folks believe that Muhammad Shahadi was pressured to stay on this investigation. That is a really, really critical fact in this case. In fact, in my opinion, if you find, and you should, and we're going to get to, I'm going to put Detective Marino here, and I'm going to put Shahadi over here, and we're going to have a little discussion about who you should believe on this one fact. But in my estimation, in this case, it's simple. You believe Shahadi, which you should. And why would that guy lie to you, by the way? Why would he lie about something like that? He has zero to gain. In fact, he was afraid of the police department, and yet he's coming in here pursuant to a subpoena and telling you multiple times, I was pressured. He has zero motive to lie and zero to gain. Now, if you're thinking in the back of your head like a good juror would, wow, did he have something maybe he might have gained by this? Is there something he can benefit by this? Is he just trying to gain favor with Dalia Dippolito? Well, I don't think so, right? You heard the rest of his testimony. Very believable as well. He didn't waver when Mr. Williams asked him questions. Remember about what you told about this poison? I mean, he also gave you testimony that doesn't help her at all. That is the true test of whether somebody is telling the truth. He told you the truth. Some of his testimony, like this helps you solve the case. Some of it was not helpful. That is a believable witness. Nothing to gain. What about Marino? Detective Marino. His Honor gave you a jury instruction that when you're back there wrestling with who told the truth, right? This case boils down to Marino versus Shahadi. I'm telling you right now. This case is Marino versus Shahadi. You folks believe that Muhammad Shahadi was pressured, did not want to be in this investigation, that he was threatened to be prosecuted, that he did not want to be involved in this, that he did not make any phone calls, that he did not want to go to the mobile station. If you believe that, then he should be gone from this investigation, and the investigation stops, and all of those videotapes that you saw and all of those audio tapes you saw are not credible evidence and should not be considered, and Miss Dippolito is not guilty. Now think about that thought for a second. You all might be thinking in your stomach, wow, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound fair, because we live in a society where we like to see videos, right? We live in a world where we've got cell phone video, everybody's taping things. And you hear about it. Jurors like to see videos and they want to hear audio. So that's a temptation you all are going to have to deal with back there. But I am telling you that if you follow the law in this case, when you follow the instructions given by His Honor, and you believe Shahadi, then this case is over, because you cannot and should not consider the evidence that they put forward to you. Think about it for a moment. With a child, I have a little girl. If my little girl breaks a rule, or if you all have kids, or if you have the blessing to one day have a child, and your child does something wrong, breaks a rule, do you reward your child for breaking that rule? Do you give them something of benefit to them when they break a rule? Do you? Will you do that? Well, in this case, if you find Ms. Dippolito guilty, then guess what you've done? You've rewarded the police department for breaking the rule. Plain and simple. You are rewarding them for violating rules. Let's get back to Detective Marino now. You heard from Shahadi. This guy didn't want to be, you could tell, you had to get him a subpoena to get him in here, okay? Detective Marino, you'll hear one of His Honor's jury instructions. One of the factors you look at in weighing the credibility of the witness is what do they have to gain from testifying in court. And one of the factors you look at is, are they working for the company that's involved in the case? Boynton Beach Police Department's not a party to the case, but we're putting them on trial. Absolutely. So he works for the Boynton Beach Police Department. Do you think that Detective Marino has an incentive to not tell you the truth? Do you think that he's possibly trying to cover his butt? Well, Miss Laurie told you a fact in closing that I think was flat out wrong. She told you that Detective Marino wasn't aware that the Cops TV show was filming. Well, that's what he said when she was questioning him. But remember that I brought up some other testimony from another hearing? Remember that? And I impeached Detective Marino. You know, sometimes in trials, admittedly, we get some facts that are impeached that aren't as important as others, right? You might hear us lawyers, oh, I'm going to impeach this witness on this fact. We feel good, right? But it's not that really big of a deal on a fact. It's a smaller fact, a little fact, right? You might be just trying to make somebody look bad. But this, by no means, was a small fact. Detective Marino knew. He lied to you. He told you on direct examination, I didn't know Cops was filming. Well, I found his testimony under oath from a prior hearing, and he lied to you.
Judge, I would object.
He testified false.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Based on the
No, no, overruled. I know what you're saying, overruled.
He told you something differently than what he told in another hearing under oath. So ask yourself again, why did Detective Marino say, why was he into hiding? Why would he say, oh, I didn't know anything about cops, when he already told us he did? Because he doesn't want all of you to know that all those folks over at the Boynton Beach Police Department were doing their script for this Cops TV show, and they struck the jackpot. Remember I told you that in opening statement? We think we've proved that. We've proved that. How do we prove that? Marino, 72-hour window, right? And by the way, that comment from Marino, the 72-hour window that Shahadi told you about, that was before Shahadi even met with Dalia Dippolito at the mobile gas station. He knew very well in his heart that they had a window. They had August 4th was a deadline because they had that meeting on August 4th, 72 hours later. And they knew they needed something good. And they got it. And I believe evidence in this case has shown that they used Dalia Dippolito as a pawn. She's no saint, I get it. She's no choir girl. She won't be any of our BFFs. That's not what the case is about. That's not what it's about. It's what should a police department have done when they got that first phone call from Muhammad Shahadi? What should they have done? That's what this case is about. And you heard unequivocally from Shahadi. He didn't waver at all. Mr. Williams did a great job of cross-examining him, but he was not able to get Shahadi to waver on that first phone call. You heard it. First phone call to the police station. Oh, woman, she's either going to be dead, she's going to be dead, he's going to be dead, right? That's a phone call. Pick up, remember opening statement? I proved it to you guys. I came through with my promise. I told you that when Shahadi called, he just wanted them to make a phone call. And you heard it from him, out of his mouth. You got it here. You believe him? Why do you lie about that? What's the motive for that? That's his first phone call. Give her a phone call. Give her a call. He mentions domestic abuse. You heard about that. You heard Tim Williams. They can throw Tim Williams under the gutter all they want. But there's one thing about Tim Williams that won't go away. 30 years at the Los Angeles Police Department. He's a senior detective supervisor. And one other thing you heard from Tim Williams, remember what he told y'all? The policies, a lot of the policies they apply universally. Y'all remember that? Universal application, right? And guess what, folks? This right here, this is universal. Okay? This directive 2007. But let's get back to that first phone call. Okay? Tim Williams told you what should have happened. You remember what he said? He said that a phone call should have been made. By the way, you've got evidence in this case that the police department had done. And he said, give her a call. You should have given her a call, done a welfare check, and should have investigated with both of them. Both Mike and Dalia. Both of them should have been investigated. But nothing was done. In fact, to prove to you all that this case is about scripting reality TV and not about justice, what bigger piece of evidence in this case than that initial meeting between Muhammad Shahadi and the Boynton Beach Police Department? Remember that? It's pretty chilling, isn't it? He goes into the police department and they tell him to come in. And they talk to him. I can't remember how long, like at least an hour. It isn't long. They talk to him. And guess what? Yeah. They didn't record it. I trust all of it. And I agree with Ms. Laura. She and I agree on one fact in this case. That you should use your common sense. You use your common sense on that fact. Because that is, you know, interesting about trials is sometimes big facts like this are so important. And then there are other times where little facts, small little ones, are so big for you to you she'd send an email to everybody months in advance. Don't fall for their trap. We didn't know that cops was there. You saw another email from Slater, remember? Where she was typing up, oh, we've had these kind of crimes, and oh, we had a big shooting here. Remember that? Remember that one where she's trying to convince the cops, folks? Bigger and better crimes are more attractive. That's more interesting. Remember that? You'll see the emails back there. Been an exhibit for you. Right? Well, we all know what they were doing. They were trying to figure out how they could get some information from Shahadi. And you know what they did? You ever heard that term, cherry picking? They cherry picked. The police department that you all trust, you think that's right? They took some information that didn't fit into their script, right? Like the domestic abuse. Let me get that over here, right? And let me take other information that looks juicy. I want that information. Oh, we got this dude. He's got an intimate relationship with this lady, doesn't even know her last name, calling her Dalia or whatever. Oh, and they're like laughing. They're laughing about it. How about that? How do you feel about that? That sounds like the police department is determined to catch a murderer? Does it? Think about it for a moment. And then they went to bed. And then they finally do a report. Because they figured out how they were going to pull this together. And then shortly after that, what happened? Marino, right? He starts immediately calling Shahadi. And you heard Shahadi's testimony. Why do you lie about that? He said he called me 1 time, 10 times a day. Marino's calling him 2, 3, 4 in the morning. So let's focus on another important fact in the case. Remember this right here? Was Shahadi pressured into staying on this? Well, that's back to lunch, I tell you. You get back to that common sense that Ms. Laurie mentioned. Go back to that again, right? Ask yourself, ask your gut this following question. If Muhammad Shahadi was willing and able and determined and ready to jog down to the police station to help on this investigation, why in the world would Detective Marino have to be calling him time and time again, 10 times a day? Use your common sense. He's pressuring Shahadi to do it because Shahadi is telling him, I don't want to do it. His Honor will tell you, we're allowed to prove a fact by inference. Doesn't always have to be direct evidence. So the inference we draw from all of these phone calls by Marino to Shahadi already is this guy doesn't want to be involved in the investigation. From Marino, like, come on, let me get down here. Right? So Shahadi finally goes down there. And then what happens? Marino says, you got to start calling Dalia Dippolito. Oh, before that even happens, remember he showed up at the police station, I forgot a fact. Remember he showed up to prove to you that the motive here was scripting the TV show and not justice? Remember that other key fact that Muhammad Shahadi shows up at the police department and he hasn't even been interviewed. Remember? Hadn't even been interviewed. And they took his keys. Remember that? They grabbed the keys to his car before they even knew what he was going to say in that interview. And they were wiring up his car and putting videotape in his vehicle before they could even verify the integrity of what Shahadi had to say. Now, ask yourself another question. Why would the police department be so anxious to grab his keys, run over his car, let's get these videotapes in here? Why were they so anxious to do that? Because they already knew that they had a good story, that they were going to create a good script for a good smart enough to know what police department's going to put videos in a person's car without even interviewing them. That's crazy. But that indicates where the intent of the police department was. Right now, we're back to the Marino. Now he's telling Shahadi, and I took a quote down. My memory's getting worse as I get older, but I do remember this one quote. Shahadi testified that the Boynton Beach Police Department, Marino, Detective Marino told him, I had to make Dalia meet with me. Okay? Take a second, process that. Okay? Does this sound like pressuring and coercion? Had to. I had, is the key word, had to make Dalia meet with me. That's the police department putting pressure on Mohammed Shahadi to go through with something that he does not want to be a part of. That's a problem. And that creates contaminated evidence in a case, whether you like the evidence or not. So now, let's get back. You heard Shahadi at the end of the day yesterday. Mr. Rosenfeld asked him some questions. Remember, he asked him, hey, how many phone calls did you make in the presence of Detective Green? Remember that? So those are the control phone calls, okay? And he said at one point, Mr. Rosenfeld rehabilitated him and said, he referenced in the prior testimony, and he said 10, 20, 30. Remember? It could have been 10, could have been 20, could have been 30 phone calls. Remember that? Why is that important? Because Lee, you heard in this case, I believe 4, right? You heard 4 control phone calls. Shahadi said there were a lot more. The police department, as Tim Williams told me, has an affirmative obligation. This is nationwide. This isn't just limited to Boynton Beach or West Palm Beach. Every police department has an affirmative duty to preserve evidence as part of the investigation. And why is that important? It gets back to preservation of the integrity of the investigation. Remember what the Tim Williams talked about? Sergeant Ramsey talked about it too. Remember that? He's a former sergeant. I told you that you need to record phone calls made by the informant. To do what? To eliminate any speculation. So we're not guessing. That's how important criminal investigations are. This case is bigger than that. It's about the integrity of criminal investigation. You have to record those phone calls so we know what's being said. And did you hear about Tim Williams? Tim Williams, I got him to say it too. Remember? He said it to you. He said, remember what Marine told you? He said, the importance of recording phone calls between an informant and a suspect. 2 reasons. 1, the prosecution can get more evidence for the case, right? They can get more evidence to strengthen their case. The second reason is the prosecution could get, remember what it said? 0 evidence. No evidence. That's the whole point. And that's the importance of preserving all of these communications so that we know. We're not left guessing. We need to know what was discussed in those phone conversations. We already have evidence that a police department is pressuring Shahadi, threatening him. You're going to get prosecuted if you don't do this. What do you go back to your gut again. Let's talk about something else. Do you think that Shahadi had a reason to possibly put any pressure on Dalia Dippolito? Do you think he has a motive? Think about that when you're back there, right? He's now being told, you have to get this done. You heard him several times. What did they say to him? It's coming back on you. It's falling back on you, right? Shahadi said yesterday he was scared when they threatened to prosecute. So put yourself in Shahadi's shoes when you're back there deliberating. Okay? Step into that guy's shoes with all the facts that I've given you and ask yourself the following question. Did Muhammad Shahadi have any motivation at all to put any pressure on Dalia Dippolito to move forward and get her to meet with Widdy Jean and to get her on tape? Did he have any motivation? I'm not even going to tell you what I think the answer is, because I trust all of you. I know that you're smart enough to figure out what the answer to that question is. Let's move back to the preservation of these audio tapes. We haven't even talked about Chili's restaurant yet, right? I'm just talking right now about controlled and uncontrolled phone calls. Okay? Remember, the controlled calls are when Shahadi's there, Marino's there, or they're doing a three-way, right? And by the way, all the phone calls were made at the behest and direction of Marino. He's telling Shahadi to make all these phone calls. Why is that fact important again? It shows that Shahadi doesn't want to go along with the program. He didn't run down to the police station and say, let me make some phone calls, let me get you on here. And remember what Shahadi said. Do you remember what he said when he first made that phone call to the police station? He said, it's not that serious. Let's go back to that. Not that serious. Just give her a call. And the big fact in this case that Mr. Williams cross-examined Shahadi on, and he changed his mind on this. Shahadi, you heard it several times. Shahadi told you that he told the police department he did not believe that Dalia Dippolito was capable of doing this. Remember that? It's another important fact. Despite the fact that he tells the police department that, what do? That doesn't fit the script. Remember? That's not going to fit into the script for cops. So we're going to get him to help get her on tape so that maybe she says something. Remember? And Shahadi even told you that he just wanted them to make a phone call. He didn't think she's capable of doing this. I mean, does that signal to you a person, by the way, who's known for 9 years at that time? This is somebody that's known for 9 years. That's another little, remember those little important facts? A lot of big ones, some small ones too that are important. That's another one. This guy knows Dalia Dippolito. And he's telling them. Now, back to how the failure to preserve these audio recordings of these phone calls, how this fits into the case. Very, very important. His Honor read you the instructions. It says, a reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant may arise from the evidence, conflict in the evidence, or the lack of evidence. On my instructions, I put some brackets around lack of evidence. Because you have at least 25 reasons for reasonable doubt in this case. 25, at least. 26 if you count Chili's. I haven't gotten there yet. Remember, all we have to show you is one reasonable doubt in your mind. One reasonable doubt. And this instruction says lack of evidence establishes reasonable doubt. There are at least 25 reasons for you to find reasonable doubt in this case. And the tragedy is, this police department had all the control, and they had all the means, and they had all the ability to avoid this from happening. Now let's talk a little bit about the Chili's. Remember the Chili's encounter? We've heard a lot Remember what I said earlier. Solicitation to commit murder in this case has to do with allegedly soliciting Witty Jean, not public. Because what the state has to prove is the solicitation is of Witty Jean. So now, let's move to Chili's restaurant. And by the way, I believe that the almost all of the phone calls on the chat back there were initiated by Shahadi to Dalia Dippolito. I think Mr. Williams highlighted a handful of calls from Dalia back to Shahadi, but the large majority of those phone calls are initiated by Shahadi. And most of the phone calls by Witty Jean, remember Witty Jean's the undercover guy now, remember almost all those phone calls were initiated by Witty Jean. We're talking about Chili's. Why is that important? Remember Tim Williams? Tim Williams gave you a really important fact. He said, the undercover informant or the undercover hit guy and the confidential informant should not be initiating phone calls. Remember that testimony? Really, really important piece of evidence in this case. Remember? It's important. Because he said we don't want to see the police officers initiating that and possibly putting something into somebody's mind. That's important. So, on the Chili's account, and by the way, before Chili's, remember August 1st is Mohammed Shahadi and Dalia Dippolito. Miss Laurie showed you that tape, right? What happened after that? Well, not much. You didn't. Another way we prove lack of intent by Dalia Dippolito in this case is look at the conduct of the Boynton Beach Police Department. Ask yourself that. That's another way that we prove that she didn't have the intent to hire somebody to kill her husband. Because the police department didn't even believe that she was capable of doing that. You know that, right? The way you know that, and I trust you know it, is because they didn't do anything, remember, to call Mike Dippolito to let him know, hey, your wife's gonna blow your brains out. Right? That's a 6-day time period. July 31st to August 5th. You really think a law enforcement agency in this country who believes that this lady's going to blow her husband's brains out, 2 shots to the head, you think that that police department believed that she was going to do this? If they didn't put any surveillance on her, and they didn't even call Mike Dippolito, doesn't this offend your sense of sensibility in this case to hear Mike Dippolito tell you on the stand that the first time he ever hears about this juicy murder for hire plot, or when the cops folks show up at his house with the cameras? What do you make of that? You really think that's a police department that believes that she's going to kill her husband? Do you think so? You're going to allow a TV show to intervene and get the cameras over to Mike's house, and let's get his reaction. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, she really did want to kill her husband. Forgot that part. That clearly shows you, you're smart enough to know, that shows you that this police department never believed for a single minute. There's another reason I'll give you why this police department didn't believe she was going to kill her husband. Do you remember that Chili's restaurant encounter? What happened after Chili's? Let's fast forward to after Chili's. That should offend all of you. Police officers laughing. You hear that? You heard it from Shahadi's mouth. Here's a woman, they claim she's going to knock her husband off, and the cops are standing outside laughing about it. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, there she's ordering a meal for her husband, ordering a last meal for her husband. Ha, ha, ha. You tell me whether that police department thought she was going to kill her husband at that moment. You know that they didn't think that she was going to kill him, or they would have been laughing about it. They would have called Mike Dippolito. They would have arrested her right on the spot. Put her in handcuffs, go get Mike Dippolito. They didn't do any of that. None of that. Because they knew what was up. They knew they were making television. They weren't concerned about her or Mike's safety, and you're smart enough to figure that out. Don't fall for this trap. Her last meal for Mike. What does that tell you too? She's so dead set on killing her husband. She's at Chili's thinking about it, thinking about him, thinking about taking a meal back to him. That really sound like somebody. I'm gonna blow my husband's brains out, but by the way, I'll order some chicken tenders for him. Really? Come on. Come on now. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Shahade tells you, he walks out of Chili's, and cops are laughing. They told him what they heard inside Chili's, right? Remember that? But you heard testimony in this case from the police department. Did you hear some of these officers? Bonifair, a couple other guys. Ramsey told you that there was this excuse given. Remember this? Oh, there must have been a malfunction. Remember this? Must have been a malfunction of the recording device for Shahade inside Chili's, right? Well, before I even get to that, don't you folks all think that 45-minute to an hour encounter inside of Chili's, right? Don't you think that that's got to be the most critical, fundamentally important meeting of all for us to have a recording of? Don't you guys think? I know you know that's true. Because right after that, Shahade drives in a car with Dalia Dippolito to meet with Willie Jean seconds before that. That is the most fundamental time that any legitimate police department should be recording a conversation. And what do? They don't have any police officers even inside the Chili's, right? There's nobody inside the Chili's. Did you hear Tim Williams? He told you there should be at least 2 police officers inside the Chili's. Where's the Chili's surveillance video? Did we see that in this case? Did the Boynton Beach PD go over to Chili's and say, hey, our wires malfunctioned, but let's go get the video surveillance and see what these 2 were doing inside of Chili's? Did you see that in this case? Did you? No, I didn't see it. We missed 45 minutes. 45 minutes of reasonable doubt. The 45-minute encounter at Chili's is 45 minutes of reasonable doubt. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to read you another instruction that His Honor gave you. This is called a loss or destruction of evidence instruction. Before I read you this instruction, let's get back to this stuff you heard from this police department telling you there's a malfunction. Did you hear from anybody? Did you even hear from any Boynton Beach Police Department officer come into the courtroom and say they wired Mohammed Shahade? Did you? Think about that for a moment. This is the guy who's going to go to get Dalia to meet with Willie Jean. And not one member of the Boynton Beach PD showed up at trial to tell you, yeah, I'm the one. I wired him. Yeah, I tested it. It worked. Nobody. Why? Because it's a big, flat-out, false statement they made. Covered it up. They made an excuse. They have the wire. The wire worked. They have the tape. That's just a big excuse. It's a cover-up. They want you to think that they had it. Oh, gee whiz, it didn't work. You heard Shahade say, oh, I didn't hear anybody. Remember, Mr. Rosenbach said, oh yeah, I was down there after they took it off. Nobody said, remember? Nobody said. It didn't work. So, could there be an inference drawn that there was something on that audio tape of Chili's they didn't like? Right? We can draw that inference. If you find that evidence existed at one time, and you find that the state has allowed that evidence to be destroyed or lost, you may infer that the true fact is against the state's interest. Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, if you line this instruction up against this exhibit, directive in 2007, and you put Chili's over here, this case is sealed for you. This is a not guilty. That's not guilty. That's not guilty. And I'll tell you why. We are allowed to infer that the true fact is against the state's interest. What does that mean? Well, because we don't have the audio tape of the Chili's encounter, and it's our position, just to be clear, that it wasn't lost. This says lost or destroyed. Our position is the evidence in this case is uncontroverted. In other words, it can't be contradicted. There was only one person that came into this courtroom to tell you that they were wired when they went in. When they came out, they heard officers recitating what happened inside of Chili's. We didn't hear any other officers from Boynton Beach PD come in here and say, that's not true. I didn't talk to Shai. I didn't tell him what happened inside that restaurant. I didn't say that I heard her ordering a meal for her husband. So we know one fact for sure. It's undisputed. That the police department had that. And it's gone. And we believe it was intentionally destroyed. Because of that, you are allowed to infer. For example, you heard yesterday, Shahadi, remember he said Dalia Dippolito was off? Remember that? He's known her 8 or 9 years. She's off in that restaurant. Off. Not herself. Right? Oh, was she getting reluctant? Was she getting cold feet in there? Right? Was she feeling a little bit afraid about all this? Hey, the rubber's meeting the road now, right? And she's not feeling herself in there. She feeling a bit reluctant? What do you think? Well, the answer is, we'll never know. That's your answer. We'll never know. And guess what? We'll never know is reasonable doubt. Plain and simple. That's reasonable. Now, after Chili's, and by the way, our position, these tapes are not credible, shouldn't be relied upon at all by you. They're contaminated. But I'm going to go one step further, and I'm going to talk to you about them anyway. In case for some reason you don't believe me, I'm going to go one step further with that with the Whitty John tape. And I'm going to read you what the definition, to help you along, of criminal solicitation is. Dalia Dippolito has to solicit Whitty John to commit first-degree murder. So again, why is that important? Because they showed you a lot of communications between Dalia and Muhammad. That's not what the case is about. It's whether she solicited Whitty John. Let's talk about, it says, Dalia Dippolito commanded, encouraged, hired, requested Whitty John. Well, let's back up from the back. Let's go back and go forward. Requested. She didn't request Whitty John. She never called Whitty John to set the meeting. Remember that? It's important stuff. Tim Williams told you. Really, really important in an undercover investigation to not have the informant or the hitman initiating the phone calls. There's not a single piece of evidence in this case that shows that Dalia Dippolito was the initiator of any of these phone calls. Why is that important? 2 reasons. It shows she's not requesting it, not commanding it, number 1. And number 2, that fits into the script. Remember, they're trying to get a good segment for the Cops TV show. Remember, they've got the 72-hour window. They've got that meeting set up on August 4th. Remember the meeting on August 4th? They've got to get this done. So that's why they're making all the phone calls. That's why they're initiated by their folks. That is a really, really important fact again for all back there. Who's making all these calls? Not one time, you didn't hear one phone call of Dalia Dippolito calling up Whitty John saying, hey, Whitty, come on, man, come over to my house, let's get this together, let's get my husband knocked off in 15 minutes. She doesn't initiate this phone call. She's responding. She is responding to phone calls made by Witty Jean. Crucial fact in determining whether there's a solicitation. She hasn't commanded Witty Jean to do anything. In fact, remember when I asked Witty Jean questions? And by the way, let's get one fact straight in this case. This Boynton Beach Police Department not only manipulated Mohammed Shahade, remember, they pressured him, threatened to prosecute him. They manipulated Mohammed Shahade. They manipulated Dalia Dippolito. They're the manipulator. And you're the third person that the Boynton Beach PD manipulated in this case? Witty Jean, their own guy. They threw him in the middle of a mess. The nice guy came in here. Did you hear what he said? Put yourself in issues. Yeah. Okay, come down to my office. Let's have a 5-minute briefing. You remember that? I had to refresh his memory. You remember? When they asked him questions, I think he said it was an hour. You remember that? Briefing? Remember the briefing? I remember reminding him, oh, dude, it was 5 minutes. 5 minutes? What do you folks think about a 5-minute briefing on a murder for a hire plot? 5 minutes? Man, what can you talk about in 5 minutes? Hey, how you doing? How you been? What's going on? Oh, I don't even know who the confidential informant, how about this? I don't even know who the confidential informant is. I don't know what the confidential informant looks like, and I have no idea what the confidential informant has even said to the suspect, and I have no idea that the confidential informant just met with Miss Dippolito at Chili's restaurant 45 minutes before he drives her over to meet him. You don't think that those 4 facts are crucial to a briefing? Do you think that that was a briefing that was to serve justice? Do you? You really? Is that a briefing of a police department that wants to get to the bottom of whether this woman over here wants to kill her husband? Do you think so? Well, you're smart enough to know. You are just smart enough to get this. That they had no desire to solve a crime, and they were on a frenzy to get Witty Jean and her so they could get some good tape. Get her on tape for the whole world to see. That Stephanie Slater, run over to YouTube, run over, hey, post this on YouTube. Let me get it on YouTube within 2 hours of that fake crime scene. That sound to you like the police department determined to get justice in this case? Determined to stop this woman from blowing her husband's brains out? Does that? 5 minutes. Boy, that should offend you. 5 minutes. I had to remind him of that. Let's talk about Witty Jean for a minute. Nice man, but he was manipulated. Put in the middle of this thing. You heard the tape. You heard him on there. He sounded like a car salesman at the end. You hear that? Oh, come on, man. Hey, it's not even about the effing money anymore. Remember that? Not even about the effing money. Hey, I'll do this for free. In fact, I'll give you a money back guarantee. What does that sound to you like? Sounds like you're in a car lot, doesn't it? Remember I impeached him on a question too? About the briefing. And this was his answer. The transcriber must have made a mistake. How about that? They're talking about our witnesses in this case. Look at their witnesses. And again, I'm not personally attacking Witty Jean. He was brought into the middle of this, and that police department manipulated him too. And don't let this police department manipulate you. This is what this case is about. They manipulated Shahade, they manipulated Witty Jean, they manipulated Dippolito, and you have a chance in this case to go back there and say, I'm not going to let you manipulate me and find her guilty because we engaged in improper police practices to create contaminated evidence to find this woman guilty. Don't let it happen. Let's talk about Marino a little bit some more before I finish up the Witty Jean encounter. How about Detective Marino? I mean, there were so many times where I asked him critical questions, and look at his responses. Boy, when he was on direct exam with the state, remember? Fluid answers. I had some tough questions for him, and there's his response at least 3 times, 4 times on critical questions. I don't recall. Oh, all right. You don't recall? Remember what he told you about it? Oh, yeah, man, I wasn't with Shahade all that time. I wasn't with him all the time. I can't be with this guy 24/7. Remember that? Remember that baloney? Oh, come on, man. I check out at 4 o'clock. I work till 8 to 5 or 4. Remember all that? That was another bunch of baloney and BS for you guys to take in. He didn't tell you the truth. Mr. Rosenfeld had to go over and find a document from the city that we had to bring in here and put in front of his face and say, hey, what's that? Then he pretends like he doesn't know. Did you see that? This is the guy that you're going to line up against Shahadi, okay? This is the man. This case is about one fact. Shahadi was pressured and threatened to be in this investigation. He did not want to be in it. He should have been gone, and none of this evidence is admissible or credible. And the only guy they've got to counter that is this man right here, who lied to your face. He didn't tell you the truth. He wanted you to believe, I can't control Mr. Shahadi. Gotta go home at 4 or 5 o'clock. Remember all that? Oh, I had a digital recorder. I could have given him a digital recorder. I decided not to give him a digital recorder. He had it. Bonifair came in here. Oh, we've got key fobs. We've got digital recorders. They got all kinds of stuff that they could have given Shahadi to record all these phone calls. But this guy didn't tell you the truth about 2 critical facts. He didn't tell you the truth about the time he was with Shahadi, and he didn't tell you the truth about not knowing about cops. He knew very well about cops. Why is this important? Because he's demonstrated to you, Marino has demonstrated to you that he's not telling the truth, and he's biased. And Shahadi is not. Back to the Woody Jean encounter. There was a moment you heard where he even told you, I give him credit. He's like, yeah, man, she didn't bring the money. She didn't bring the key. I didn't expect her to bring the money. I got to get her to warm up to me. Well, why does he have to get her to warm up to her? Why does that have to happen? If this woman is dead set on killing her husband, right? If she is determined to kill her husband, first of all, why does it take over 25 phone calls? Remember that? It should take 1 phone call. 1 phone call. Why does it take a 45-minute encounter at Chili's with no audio tape? If this woman was determined to kill her husband. But Woody Jean said, I got to get her to warm up to me. He admitted to you. She never used the word kill, murder, didn't feel comfortable. Remember, she decided to cut off guard. Remember that one? He calls her up. Now you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, again, use your common sense. This woman is determined to kill her husband. Why would she say the following words when he calls? Hey, Dalia, I'm so-and-so. I'm your hit guy. I'm going to kill your husband. If she wanted to kill him, she would have been like, fantastic. Let's meet in 5 minutes. What was her response? Wow, I was caught off guard. You're smart enough to know. You're caught off guard because this woman's having some reservations about this. Remember the opening statement? Loud bark, no bite. Actions speak louder than words. Rubber meets the road. Think about those 3 metaphors when you're back there. Because this is serious stuff. Okay? This is big stuff. Does she really, really, really want to do this? Or is she being egged on, initiated by Woody Jean? If you believe that tape is not contaminated, take a look at it. You could talk to somebody for 2 hours, get them to say something. You heard Tim Williams. Tim Williams, critical testimony of Tim Williams. Remember what he said? He said, when she didn't bring the money, remember this? Didn't bring any money, didn't bring a key, caught off guard, doesn't want to talk about murder or kill. What did Tim Williams say? End the investigation. End that. Call me when you are serious. Remember that? Call me when you're serious. That's what a true investigation would have done. It wouldn't have stayed on until, hey, come on, $3,000. Let me double the price now. I thought I was watching Price is Right. Hey, it's $3,000. Now, guess what? If I do it on credit, I'll double the price. Did you hear that in there? I'll go from 3 to 6 or 7, right? Because I'm going to do it on credit. Now, do you all really think that somebody is serious about killing their husband on credit? Do you really think that hit guys are going to kill people for credit? And by the way, another key little fact. Woody Jean then tells Dippolito, anything's not gonna work. Remember all that? Why is that important? Because after that point in time, Dalia Dippolito doesn't come up with another solution. He calls her. He then calls her again and says, we'll do it this way. Now, when you're back there reading this, okay, when you're back there, that's not her commanding him to do something. That's him doing the narrative. That's him coming up with another idea. Let's do it this way. This is really important when you're reading that instruction. This is important. Okay. This is what Witty Jean told me. Okay? Critical fact. This is what Witty Jean told me why it is that he asked Dalia Dippolito to bring $3,000 and a key. Remember that? He said, this is his exact response. This to me was so important. I asked for the $3,000 and keys to see how far she would go to facilitate the crime. Don't you think that's important? He's basically testing her, right? Witty Jean wants to see, is this woman over here really serious? Is this just wasting my time, like Tim Williams said? Or is she really serious about doing this? This is a really, really crucial fact. Right? And what does Dalia do? They can argue till the cow comes up. Oh, I don't need the key, blah, blah, blah. Money, who cares? She gave a little bit of money to Muhammad. Remember, Muhammad's not the hit guy. Forget about all that. Don't listen to their smoke screen. This is the key thing right here. She didn't bring a key, or she didn't bring the money. So you know what that means? Under Witty Jean's analysis, Dalia Dippolito did zero. She didn't do anything to facilitate the crime. So if she shows up with no key and no money, you know what should happen in proper investigation? You heard it from Tim Williams. Hey lady, out of my car. Out of my car, get to me when you're serious. That's what Tim Williams said. But Witty Jean couldn't do that. He couldn't do that. Should have stopped right there. But he didn't and couldn't because he was manipulated by a police department, national TV show. So they put added pressure on him. The five-minute briefing, how about that? He didn't even know Muhammad. How about that? He didn't even know the guy outside the car was the confidential informant. Remember that? That's important. Remember there's a guy hovering around the car? That was Muhammad Shahid. Witty Jean, poor guy, didn't even know. That's him. That's how quickly Tim Williams said too. Never should be a timeline put on any kind of investigation. Remember that? It could be, remember what he said? It could be 5 days, could be 5 hours, could be 5 months, could be a year. But no, Marino said it's a 72-hour window. Well, Detective Marino, what other 72-hour window is it? What's the window for? Huh? There's no other 72-hour window other than the meeting on August 4th with the cops folks. Remember? And remember how they changed it? They changed everything then to create this fake crime scene that we're going to get into. But this is really, really important, this fact right here. And before I move into the fake crime scene, let's talk a little bit about this money issue too. Miss Laurie was pretty dramatic with the money. Here's the money. Remember with Muhammad? Remember all that? Here's the money. Case over. That's a bunch of garbage, just like this investigation was. You know why? You heard Tim Williams. What investigation have you ever seen where a legitimate police department interested in justice wouldn't frisk the informant before they go in and meet with the suspect, right? You know what I mean by that? Here, I got a few dollars in my key in my pocket, take it out. Got everything everything out of my pockets, get my tissue out of my pocket, put it down, everything's out. So I got a coin right here, a piece of gum. Let's get everything out. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to clear his pockets out. If they really were concerned about getting the truth out. Remember, they were on such a fast, frenzied pace. We gotta get this from cops. They were so quick in trying to put this together that they failed to frisk Muhammad Shah before he went and met Ms. Dippolito. Why is that important? I didn't see on that video anybody counting out the money, did you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000, 1,100, 1,200. Did you hear any of that on the video? Did you? I didn't. The video I saw didn't have any of that, did it? Did we know how much money Muhammad Shahadi had in his pocket before he met Dalia Dippolito? No, because the police department didn't care about doing that. Another question for you. Do we know whether any of that $1,200 is Ms. Dippolito's money or Shahadi's money? Do you know that? Do you know that beyond a reasonable doubt that any of that money is Dippolito's money? Do you? Did you hear any evidence in this case from any witnesses from the state that came on here and said, hey, we booked in $1,200 and there are Dippolito's fingerprints or DNA on all $1,200? Did you hear any of that in this case? That's another smokescreen by them. Their big plastic bag with $1,200 in it, where you guys have no idea where that $1,200 came from, how much she gave him, whether it's for a loan, whether for anything else, and we don't even know what Shahadi, how much money he had. And they had every capability. You heard Tim Williams. He told you they could do DNA testing on that money. That'll tell you whether her prints are on it. Did you hear anybody from the police department come in here and tell you, anybody from their forensics lab come in here and tell you that they tested that money and her prints are on it? And then confirming with each $100 bill or whatever's in there that those are her prints on that. You heard Shahadi. It's commingled. You know, commingled means money's thrown together, put together. My little girl's got $5 in her pocket. I give her $5 to go to the park or go to an amusement park. Well, I'd have to give her 20. The cost of food in an amusement park. But who knows what money did I give her? What money was hers? It's commingled. Right? They didn't even do that. So I wouldn't even pay attention to this baloney money evidence they're trying to trick you with Shahadi. And you heard Winnie Jean told Dalia Dippolito, I don't even have a gun. Remember that? I had to refresh his memory on that. Remember that? This woman is so determined to kill her husband. The Winnie Jean, who's pitching her on a guaranteed, money-back guarantee hit, double the price, doesn't even have a gun. He doesn't have a gun to do the deal, and she's got no money for the gun. This is a real deal. I'm like it. Let's talk about this fake crime scene. How about that, right? Before I get to the fake crime scene. Did she intend to kill her husband? Well, Winnie Jean didn't arrest her. Winnie Jean didn't arrest her because there was no deal. There was no deal in place to kill her husband. After that August 3rd, 2009 account, there was no deal. That's why she wasn't arrested. So she then goes home to Mike Dippolito. There's no surveillance on Dalia Dippolito, no surveillance on Mike Dippolito. Nobody calls Mike and says you're going to get killed, right? Again, it doesn't sound like the police department who thinks that she's going to kill her husband, does it? And instead of going and protecting Mike or arresting this young lady, what do? These police officers get together and have a big meeting about, let's put together a fake crime scene. Have you ever heard of anything like this? Where you heard Stephanie Slater come in, right? They shut down part of the street. How about that? Shut down the street. Put barricades, put crime tape all over the street, right? Put crime tape all over the street, right? Pretend, right? It's all pretend. Let's get the cameras rolling. Not only the cops' cameras, but Slater filming, remember? She told you, oh, my camera doesn't work. Remember that? Remember she told you that? Camera's not working. I didn't film, remember? I didn't film. Let's take a look at that. Does that look like somebody filming to you? Take a look at it. Looks to me like Stephanie Slater's filming, right? Doesn't look like she's not filming. Why didn't she tell you the truth about that? You know why? Because she didn't want you to think that she was doing that to promote the Boynton Beach Police Department on social media rather than help solve the crime. That's what she wants. She wants you to know. But we caught her. And then what did Stephanie Slater do? Remember this? You remember that one of the directives we have, you'll have it back there. Remember the media directive that we read? It says you're supposed to publish or disseminate information important on a pending criminal investigation. Remember that? And within 2 hours of this fake crime scene, in which they go to the extreme of having Frank Ramsey get on the phone, hey, Mr. Dippolito, come over here, hurry, right? Think of this. You got the fake crime scene, you got the cops, folks showing up at Mike Dippolito's place, later on after that, right? Hey, Dalia, come over here. And they make a big deal about she didn't have tears in her eyes. Well, ask yourself this. One thing they forgot to mention. Ask yourself this. If this police department, the Boynton Beach Police Department, already believed that this woman over here was going to kill her husband, if they already believed it on the day of this fake crime scene, why did they have to set up this crime scene, this fake pretend crime scene, to remember what the reason why was? To get a reaction. Remember that? That's the reason to do this. Why does the police department need to try to get a reaction from her if they're so dead set that she's already going to kill her husband? Because they're not sure. They don't even know. They know that she's not intending on killing her husband. They don't need to get a reaction out of her if they truly believe she's going to blow 2 bullets in her husband's head. Do they? They don't need to do that. You guys can talk about it when you're back there. Is this appropriate police practices? To set up fake scenes for television? To get reactions of somebody? Let's talk a little bit about Mike Dippolito. I didn't hear any evidence in this case. This is another one of those things where you get these remember those small little facts again? Here's another one I'm going to throw you to think about back there. I didn't hear Mike Dippolito ask a very important question in this case. He was never asked, think of this, hey, when the cops TV show folks showed up at your house, remember, knocked on his door, tell him about this whole thing? Nobody asked him, was your door locked? When did not? How about that? Remember that? Remember, they're trying to tell you, oh, Dippolito left the door open for him. Remember that? The best evidence of that would have come out of this man's mouth right here, Mike Dippolito. He could have told you in 2 seconds, yeah, when the cops spoke to him, oh my gosh, I opened the door and it was already unlocked. Are you kidding me? My door's never unlocked. So, as you sit here today, you have 0 evidence that she left the door unlocked. There's no evidence of that in this case. None. 0. And she goes to the gym all the time. Some women go to the gym. They have jewelry on. They put it in their purse while they work out or because they're showering after. So don't fall for this fake crime scene. In fact, this fake crime scene, again, proves in this case that this police department never believed that Dalia Dippolito was going to kill her husband. This has nothing to do with solving a crime. It has everything to do with, look at right here. What do you see on the bottom right here, you guys and gals? ABC 2020. What's that? That's what this case was, that's what they were doing. It was for television. See it? And then they still haven't even arrested her. Did you notice that? Did you see that? Another little important fact. Even at the fake pretend crime scene, they don't arrest Dalia Dippolito. This is a woman, Mr. Williams and Mr. Laurie want you to believe, intended to kill her husband. And after all this great evidence, they think they still don't arrest Dalia. And there's only one reason for why they hadn't even arrested her after this fake crime scene. Because they knew that she never intended on killing her husband. She would have been arrested on August 1st, August 3rd. Never. She wasn't. You want to know why they didn't arrest her then? Another reason why? Because they needed to finish the script. The cop television show. Remember that? Remember the interrogation room? How do you feel about that when you're back there? Why don't you talk about that? Is this upsetting to you? What's equally upsetting, I think, to all of you should be, what happened in the police station after? They have cops' television show, cameras, inside the interrogation. You heard Sergeant Ramsey, remember he talked about it? He's like, man, it was crazy in there. Remember what Ramsey told you? He said clearly, cops should not be involved. You remember that? They shouldn't be there at all. Two reasons why. You remember why? Compromises the integrity of the investigation. Remember the other important fact he said to you? People play differently in front of the camera. Remember that? So do you think that those were earnest, honest police officers down in that interrogation room on August 5, 2009? You saw Sheridan on there. Remember Sergeant Sheridan? Remember the guy in there in the interrogation room talking to her? Did we hear from him in this case? Did the state call him Sergeant Sheridan?
Overruled.
We didn't hear from Sergeant Sheridan. That's their lead guy. Why didn't they call him? Think of that. That is the lead guy, the top guy on this investigation, and the state doesn't call him as a witness. Think about that for a minute. And the state didn't even call the confidential. Who called him? We didn't. That's their guy. Remember? That's the guy they anointed as the confidential informant. Remember, that's their person that's collaborating. Mr. Williams did a great job of going through, remember the confidential informant packet? This is, you're partnering with us, you're working with the police department, you're not getting paid, but you're on board with the police department. Remember Marino? I had Marino on the stand. Did you hear him? I asked him point blank, did you find Mr. Shahadi to be trustworthy? Remember that? What did he say? His answer was, Y-E-S. Yes. I find Mr. Shahadi to be trustworthy. Remember that? So when you're back there again grappling with who's telling the truth, is it Marino or is it Shahadi? Ask yourself that. Their own guy, Marino, told you Shahadi's trustworthy. That should be a no-brainer for you then. Who do you believe? Are they going to go back on their word now? The guy they hired, or they brought on board as their confidential informant, and now they're going to backtrack on him and try to cross-examine him in trial and try to make him look like a liar? That's the guy they said was trustworthy. Wait a minute, which one is it? Which one do you want, Steve? You can't cherry pick. This isn't about cherry picking. So back to Sheridan from the interrogation room. You saw him in there, didn't you? Puts a piece of paper in front of Dalia Dippolito. This guy is more worried about getting her to sign a waiver for a Cops TV show. He doesn't even tell her it's a waiver. Did you see that? For a Cops TV show. This guy was like, oh man, sign, here it is, here it is. Does that sound like a sergeant in a police department that's worried about solving a crime? Does it? We saw a camera. Did you see that too? There was a camera, like when the door opened, there was a camera. Right? And I'll be honest with you, I felt a little bit bad for Woody John coming in there. I asked him about it. He told the truth. He said, no, I wasn't bothered by it. They went to the extreme of handcuffing. They're undercover. Put him in handcuffs, making him look like he told you, like a mean guy. They hired me because I'm a mean guy. I look like I could do the crime. Remember that? They bring him in there in handcuffs, stick him in front of Dalia Dippolito. How does he feel doing that? He was manipulated too by his police department. He was thrown right in the middle of this thing. You think that's justice? Do you? You think that's proper law enforcement? How dramatic was that with Sheridan in there? Oh, you're finally. Is that right, Sergeant Sheridan? Finally. You're under arrest. He was so proud of you. You see him on that tape? Ah, yeah. We got you now. How dramatic was that? It's over for you. If you really thought it's over for you, you should have arrested her 4 days before. Let's go through a few more poster boards before I finish. I may have talked about this before, but it's important for you to see this. This is actual testimony. This is very important. It's from Detective Marino. His testimony in this case, unequivocal, was I could have given Mom Shahadi a recording device to record phone calls when not with the police. I mean, man, there is just no excuse. None. I've thought long and hard about this. There's no excuse for a legitimate detective on this type of investigation to not give a recording device to Mr. Shahadi unless he had an ulterior motive. And his ulterior motive was he didn't care. He didn't want to know. He didn't want to know what was going on with Shahadi and Dippolito outside his presence. Why? Because it didn't fit the script. He already had what he needed. Remember those control phone calls? He had it. He didn't care. Go off on your own. Remember what Tim Williams told y'all? Tim Williams told you, give him the recorder, have him call you when a phone call comes in. Document, remember all that? It's not hard to do, ladies and gentlemen. It's what every legitimate law enforcement agency does. And these folks want you to believe that they don't have to do this, that they shouldn't do that. This is reasonable doubt. This gets back to reasonable doubt again. The failure to give the recording device, the failure to record these phone calls, that again is all reasonable doubt because it's lack of evidence. It's evidence that you all should have, we all should have. And the Chili's tape too. We need that. We all have to have it. Remember what Williams said too? What's the key word he said? Why do you need all these tapes? One word, corroborate. Remember that? Remember that? Hey, whether it's good or bad, whether it helps these folks or helps us. That's the spirit behind preserving recordings in an undercover operation. It's for good or bad. It's not when you want it or when you don't want it. There's no bend in this at all. Proper police department, working with good ethics and good morals, would have given Shahadi a recording device. Let's talk about Sergeant Ramsey for a little bit. Mr. Williams tried to portray Sergeant Ramsey as, oh, you kind of bickered a little bit with Sergeant Sheridan. You remember that? Well, that was a nice try. But I got to tell you, this guy grew up in the New York City Police Department. He had over 500 hours, I believe, of training on informants. You know what the Boynton Beach Police Department did with Ramsey? Sheridan didn't pick Frank Ramsey to be on this investigation. You want to know why? Because Ramsey knew he could manipulate Marino, but he couldn't get away with that with Ramsey. Remember that? Ramsey lives by the rules. This guy, you see it right here. Did these mistakes compromise the integrity of the entire investigation? What was his answer? It wasn't maybe. Oh, possibly. What's his answer? Under oath. Absolutely. This is their former guy. Been there for years. Sergeant. But I think the more important point of this is, there's now, this kind of shores up all these pieces that you can see coming together for the puzzle here for this Cops TV show. This was a critical piece for Sergeant Sheridan. Marino was the younger guy. Remember, he's younger, less experienced. Sheridan could work with him, right? unrecorded phone calls, don't give Shahadi the recorder. Do you think for a minute, I want to ask all 8 of you, do you think for a moment, after you heard Ramsey on the stand, do you think that Sheridan could have gotten away with what he did with Marino, with Sergeant Ramsey? Think about that for a moment. Do you think Ramsey would have not given a recording device to Shahadi to record the conversations? Do you think that Ramsey would have pressured Shahadi to be on the investigation? Do you think that Ramsey would have threatened Shahadi with prosecution unless he followed through with the investigation? Do you think that Ramsey, Sergeant Frank Ramsey, would have done that? If your answer is no, that explains to all of you exactly what this investigation was about. This is the final piece right here. This is it. It's such an important piece. Who is spearheading this alleged investigation? It's not this guy with the most experience by far at that police department. This is the guy that should have been running the investigation. He was not picked because Sheridan knew this is our chance. We got cops coming. We got a juicy story, and we're going to get this dramatic story on tape, and we're going to get it for the whole world to see. And I can't accomplish that if Frank Ramsey's doing it. Isn't that chilling? And let's talk about that. Remember for the whole world to see? You heard Stephanie Slater tell you. Within minutes. You know that video? Remember the video of the fake crime scene? That went viral. It went viral all over the world within minutes. And I showed you the Boynton Beach PD media page. Did you see that? There were nearly 500,000, almost 500,000 hits from this fake crime scene. Clear violation of their directive and clearly compromising the rights of Dalia Dippolito. You heard testimony of that. This, ladies and gentlemen, the second question I'm going to read you right here is, again, more reasonable doubt. This is huge reasonable doubt. This, again, goes to the destruction of evidence, instruction you're going to get back there. Question, do you still wonder what happened inside Chili's on August 3rd, 2009? See the answer? Take a moment and look at it. It says all the time. Here we are, almost 8 years later. And we're all still wondering, including Frank Ramsey, about what went down inside that Chili's restaurant. And in a credible law enforcement investigation, jurors are not left wondering. When you're wondering back there, and you're asking yourself, where's this video? Or where's this audio? What happened in there? What? If you're asking yourself what was said on that phone call? What was said inside Chili's? If you folks are asking yourself back there, if you're asking yourself that back there, that's reasonable doubt. And you must find not guilty of that on this case. Because you're left wondering. And when you're left wondering because it intentionally destroyed evidence or didn't properly preserve evidence, that, each time that happens, is reasonable doubt. We just need one time. Not 25 or 26 times. This is overwhelming. And I don't know what Mr. Williams is going to talk about, but don't let him, if he talks about phone records, remember there was this issue of, was it seconds, was it minutes? Remember that? Do we know whether it's seconds or minutes with these phone calls between Shahadi and Dalia Dippolito? Doesn't matter. If it's seconds, I did the math. It's close to 40 minutes. If it's minutes, it's a lot more. We don't know the answer to that. But ask yourself this. Even 5 seconds of a phone conversation between a confidential informant or an undercover hitman and a suspect in a murder for hire case, even 5 seconds of unrecorded phone calls is reasonable doubt, let alone nearly 40 minutes.
You have about 25 minutes.
Okay, we're on track. Thank you. Tim Williams. He's talking about the reliability of the One Beach Police Department investigation. Summarize again. If Mohammed Shahade did not want to cooperate, deactivation was required. And again, to summarize for y'all, you have overwhelming evidence that Shahade, he did not want to participate in this investigation. So pursuant to Tim Williams' testimony, he should be removed from the investigation, and the investigation ends there. Any evidence by keeping him on, remember what he said? Remember what Tim Williams said? When you keep an informant on an investigation, when they are resisting being on the investigation, it creates a motivation then for the informant to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do. Remember that? That they're now trying to do something to get information to appease the police department. Remember that goes back to that comment I made earlier on in my closing. Remember that comment that I quoted Shahade on? I had to make Dalia Dippolito meet. Remember that? Had to. Pressured, forced. So you want to avoid that. If Mohammed Shahade was threatened with prosecution, that's illegal, and everything after that is tainted and unreliable. This, ladies and gentlemen, is your entire case. This is your roadmap to a not guilty verdict right there. It's plain and simple. The point of this means that all this evidence that Mr. Williams and Mr. Laurie are showing you, all the videotapes, all the audio tape recording, the ones they did tape and show you to hear, all of that evidence is unreliable. It's not credible. You heard Tim Williams. It's tainted. It's contaminated. If you give any value to any of this contaminated, tainted evidence, then you have endorsed improper police practices in this case. That's what this case is about. That's the next comment he made. This is testimony under oath. If Mohammed Shahade is threatened and coerced, that's illegal. And the information, two people now said it's illegal. Y'all remember this? Remember Frank Ramsey? He said it's illegal too. Two people have said that if Shahade was threatened and coerced to stay on this investigation, that is illegal, and all the evidence generated from that is done. It's contaminated. Okay? So he says it's illegal. Information you get from can be tainted because they're trying to please the Boynton Beach Police Department. That's just what we talked about. The evidence that comes from that, unreliable. Another quick one, this is Frank Ramsey. Question. We're missing some crucial evidence in this case. See his answer? Correct. Correct. Just to remind you one last time, remember, we're missing some crucial evidence in this case. Correct. Reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant may arise from the evidence, conflicting evidence, or the lack of evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ramsey's testimony under oath is reasonable doubt. Creates reasonable doubt. And this is just what I was talking about. Reasonable doubt. Take a look at that for a second. What it says, a reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant may arise from the evidence, conflict in the evidence, or the lack of evidence. That's the instruction, and again, you've got to follow the law. And I'll read one more quick comment here, because I know it's tempting. I don't like that lady over there. I don't like her. I don't like what she said on some of this. I don't want my daughter hanging out with her. That's not what this is about. That is not what this courtroom is about. There's another instruction His Honor gave me. The case must not be decided for or against anyone because you feel sorry for anyone or angry at anyone. If you're angry at Dalia Dippolito, that's not the measuring stick for finding guilt or innocence in this case.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is what you follow to find guilt or innocence. And here are the reasons to doubt, just to summarize again. All the phone calls, you remember, we had at least 25 phone calls. The phone records are in there, if you need to see them. There's at least 25 phone calls between Shahade and Dalia Dippolito that are not recorded. And they could have easily been recorded. And they should have been recorded. That's reasonable doubt. That's another 25 reasons to find reasonable doubt. I forgot to mention the interview recording. That's another reasonable doubt. Remember the first time Shahade goes in to meet with the folks at Point BSPD, and that wasn't recorded? That's another reason for reasonable doubt in this case. And then the other one we've talked about already is the Chili's report. These are all unequivocal reasons to find reasonable doubt as mandated by the law that His Honor has read to you. Not from me, Mr. Williams, Ms. Laurie, Mr. Rosenfeld, or from anybody else. This is the law you have to follow. It's not about all these other distractions that they're trying to get you to focus on. That's not what it's about. This is it right here. I know you can do it. Keep your eye on the ball. Don't get sidetracked. Please. Just going through my notes, Your Honor. Just going to summarize a couple key points. I'm almost done. Just going through some of my notes here. Phone calls initiated by Shahade. Tim Williams saying, should never be initiated. Marino saying, I'm off at 5 o'clock every day. 72-hour window. The chief wants a big viewing party. I forgot about that. Miss Laurie came up and told you, well, gee whiz, the viewing party wasn't about Dalia Dippolito. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Is that going to make you change your mind as to where the true incentive was for this police department? The former police chief is wanting to know when these cops episodes are going to air so he can have a big viewing party. Doesn't that compromise the integrity of law enforcement? Doesn't it? Doesn't that compromise the rights of my client? Is that really justice? More worried about the TV shows airing than giving a digital recorder to a confidential informant? More worried about the TV show airing than making sure that a critical 45-minute tape isn't destroyed at Chili's restaurant? What do you think? Why didn't former Chief Imler write an email to somebody at Boynton Beach PD and say, hey, where's that 45-minute tape from Chili's? I'm really worried about that. Where is it? Why didn't Chief Imler write an email and say, hey, who wired him? Why is he writing emails about a viewing party and not about what happened in this investigation? Ask yourself that. What does that tell you about leadership at the Boynton Beach PD? The leader at that time, back when this went down, was more worried about when the Cops TV show was going to air than he was, does my police department have a real objective to get to justice on investigations? Does my police department enforce directives at the police department? Right? The former chief isn't worried about any of that, is he? Why don't we have an email from former Chief Imler about this? After this all went down, right? Why don't we have an email? Hey, what's happening with making sure that we don't pressure informants to be on undercover investigations? None of that. There's a former chief that his heart was in cops, not integrity. His heart was in cops, not justice. Shahade, his first phone call, I checked my notes. This is not serious. Remember that? Not serious. So if the police department, if Detective Marino thought that Mr. Shahade was trustworthy, right, and honorable, why did Detective Marino take that comment and not believe it? Shahade told him, this isn't serious. But Marino didn't like that. It didn't fit the script. Shahade said, no crime's been committed. Shahade said, I don't think she's capable of doing anything. Shahade said that she was beaten by her husband. Shahade said this is a domestic abuse call. Shahade said, just pick up the phone. Shahade said, just give her a call and take care of it. I'll leave you with this. These are my final comments in this case. This is the last you're going to hear from me. You'll hear from Mr. Williams, but I have every confidence in the world that you folks are going to go back there and use your common sense and follow the law, follow that directive, and believe Mr. Shahade, and hold this police department to a better standard and find my client not guilty in this case, because this is trash evidence. This is a garbage investigation. And trash evidence that they're trying to use to convict my client, Dalia Dippolito. I'll leave you with a quote. I want to leave you with a quote that I need you to all think about back there. This is a quote from Martin Luther King. May I stress the need for leaders of sound integrity, leaders not in love with publicity, but in love with justice. That was Martin Luther King. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the Boynton Beach Police Department, they need to have a seminar about this quote from Martin Luther King. Because in this case, this was a police department that was not a leader in sound integrity. This was a leader in love with publicity. And this was a leader in law enforcement that was not in love with justice. On behalf of Mr. Williams, Ms. Laurie, Mr. Rosenfeld, and myself, I want to thank all of you collectively, and His Honor. We thank all of you collectively for the time you've devoted to this case. And I won't be speaking to you again, so thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Claypool. We've been at it almost 2 hours, so we're going to take about a 5-minute break and let you use the facilities if you need to. We'll send you back into the jury room when we come back. The state has about 30 minutes left for a rebuttal argument, so we'll hear the rebuttal. So we'll send you back for a couple minutes. Again, just remind you, you can't start discussing the case yet. We're not there. All right, we'll take about a 5-minute break and come back and do the rebuttal close.